And I'm like, when's the next town? Where's the next relief?
Yeah.
And she's like 85 kilometers.
Ugh.
And I just inside, I mean, not outside, like just inside, I just started to cry.
Arie Huggerbrug, also known as Safari Arie, started in St. John's, Newfoundland on November 12, 2019. His mission? To bike the road less traveled. Today is just one pedal closer to the tip of Argentina. All right, hey everybody, this is Brandon McCaskill. Welcome to the Safari Arie Road Show. We got Arie here with us. Arie, how are you doing, sir?
I'm actually doing pretty good. I'm in a hotel and I'm out of the heat, so I have like nothing to complain about. I'm in this town. I better say it quickly before it gets stuck in the back of my throat. But I'm in this town called Guerrero Negro. Guerrero Negro.
Guerrero
Um,
Negro.
yeah, it's
Nice.
about halfway down the Baja.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it's world famous for whale watching. In the winter,
Oh.
like the whales are already gone.
Yeah.
I don't know which way I'm guessing they probably headed north. But in the winter here, this particular place is like world famous for whale watching, but no whales right now. And so, yeah, so I'm about halfway down the Baja of Mexico kind of deal. And yeah, so since we last spoke, it's been a heck of an adventure. In one sense, not like in a good way. It's been, I'm going to probably say it's been the toughest of the entire ride. That being said, actually, probably the last 2 to 3 weeks, like basically ever since I left Grand Canyon, heading southward is, when I kind of hit the 110-degree Fahrenheit temperatures. And then I got into Mexico and it kind of went from 110 to 115. And for all I know is it even went higher. Now, since I passed on or crossed onto this side of the peninsula, the Pacific side, the Pacific Ocean is just not that far. It's just a stone throw away from me. Temperatures are actually beautiful. Like I went from like 105 to like 80. Sure, 105, 110, 115 to 80. And so right now things are cool.
That's good.
Yeah. So so it took me about a weekish to get here. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly kind of recap the adventure of getting here. And I do apologize, but I'm actually going to use some cheat sheets because it was such a crazy experience that in many ways, a lot of it is like I've been here for a few days, so we're a little bit behind on just getting this recorded and posted, but
yeah,
it was honestly, a lot of it is just a blur. I look back on it going, it's like because of the heat and everything.
Yeah.
It was just so. Anyways, I'm just going to sort of use some quick cheat sheets to try to get through the week as quickly as I can. So anyway, so I left Mexicali June 13th, following Highway 5 due south towards and along the Sea of Cortez. The first day was 78 kilometers. Other than the heat, fairly uneventful. June 14th, I actually pedaled 100 kilometers. It was mostly flat. It's amazing how boring and drab most of that landscape was. It was just pure nothing, nothing. Which in 110, pure nothing is, So June 15th, I did like 73 kilometers. On June 15th, I got to a town called San Felipe. I actually sat at the Sea of Cortez. It was kind of my first, I sat there for like 2 hours, just completely unmotivated because the heat
I'd imagine.
I realized actually, like I've actually been exhausted, like when I biked in the Canadian winter. But it's been different. So let me explain. So when I biked in the Canadian winter, 2019, 2020 Canadian winter, I was exhausted. And the reason I was exhausted because in the cold, I wouldn't sleep well if I slept in the tent. So I would toss and turn the entire night till like 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And then I'd finally fall asleep and then I'd wake up at 8. So I'd get like almost no sleep during the day. And then I'd have to bike all day through the cold. of January, February kind of deal. But you
Yeah.
can't exactly just in January at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because you're exhausted, pull over to the local uh, snow bank and set up your tent and take a nap. You know what I mean? Because it's like below freezing. You know what I mean? But the thing is so in the winter, I'd have to bike, till dark. And then I would go into the Tim Hortons and I'd work away on my blogs until it got dark. And then I'd set up my tent at 11 o'clock. Yeah. So I'd be exhausted at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I would have no way to set up my tent till like 11 o'clock, because usually I set my tent up in the parking lot at Tim Hortons. And so I would be exhausted, during the winter. Yeah. And I'm actually feeling that same exhaustion here, because interestingly enough, I'm actually generally, as a rule, sleeping pretty good during the night, but because of the heat, it's just draining me. But there is like nothing out here. So there is zero shade. It's not like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can just, I'll just take a nap. Like it's 115 degrees. Like no one takes a nap in 115 degrees with zero shade. No. And so I'm dealing with that same exhaustion here, just two completely different extremes. One exhaustion was in the winter, and this exhaustion is in the desert. But I realized it's like, holy crap, like it just kind of like it's the same, like just exhaustion. Wow. And just physically sore, because it's just like constant sweat. And so I'm constantly rubbing my face with my gloves, like just, that's the worst. And so, anyways, and then just always, it's funny, most people, they head south because you're supposed to be able to catch a tailwind, and it's just constant headwind. Yeah. So anyways, June 16th, I biked 68 kilometers. It was actually a little bit cooler that day. And it was a little bit cooler, but just completely dead, beat, killed. I arrived in this town called Puerto Citos, I believe it's pronounced. Yeah. Okay. And it's just, all I wanted was just like a hotel. I wanted a hotel, just to AC, just because I'm just exhausted. I just want to sleep. Yeah. And I get there and they're like, nope, the restaurant's closed, the hotel's closed. Everything closed in April. Everything closed, like everything down here in one sense. Yeah. Depending on what it is, closes in April, because that's when all the US snowbirds head south because it's too hot. Yeah. Virtually every Mexican that I spoke to that kind of speaks English on that side, on the Highway 5 along the Sea Cortez, every single one of them complained about the heat. And it's like, well, if you're complaining about the heat, imagine a Canadian on a bicycle. Yeah. And so, so I get there, and I gotta tell you, like, honestly, after like 3 days, I was fried. I just wanted relief. And I find this lady, she speaks English, and she's like, yeah, no, the restaurant's closed, the hotel's closed. There's a grocery store, variety store on the hill, back up the hill that I had not climbed. And I'm like inside, I'm actually like starting to cry almost. Yeah. And I'm like, when's the next town? Where's the next relief? Yeah. And she's like 85 kilometers. And I just inside, I mean, not outside, like just inside, I just started to cry. Yeah. Like 85 kilometers in 115. Yeah. Anyways, I still remember, like, so I got there towards the end of the day, so I cooled off at the store. I rehydrated, got some cool drinks. I biked 20 kilometers. I was actually hit my first hill. So I went over my first mountain. I went over my first mountain, and I biked till the dark. And as soon as I stopped, just as the sun went down, like dark, all of a sudden the winds came. These winds, I guess they came from the north, across the hot desert. Yeah. And it's almost the only way I can explain it, honestly. Imagine that you're, like, just from perspective as a Canadian in Canada, obviously in America too, but imagine on your hottest day in the summer, imagine turning your furnace on full blast, and then standing right in front of it but you can't like leave. It's like, no, you can't, like, you can't, because obviously if you were to do that, you like within a second, you'd like, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're in the middle of the desert with no cover. Like there's no, like, you don't get to walk away.
Yeah.
It's the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but just imagine standing in front of the furnace on full blast on the hottest day of summer.
Wow.
And that's what happened. Just as soon as I parked my bike, it just, yeah. And I hadn't eaten all day, so I actually bought some hot dogs, which are really weird looking in Mexico. They're pink. They're just this weird looking color. And the wind was so strong, it actually it blew my stove out.
Yeah.
That's how strong the wind was. It is hot furnace wind. It blew my stove out. But anyways, I got it restarted. I had a couple of hot dogs. I couldn't eat anymore. So like, it was because that's the thing. In this 115, unless you have cold water, like the food sticks to the back of your throat.
Yeah.
It's just so miserable.
Wow.
And there was no point in setting up my tent because the wind I would have damaged my tent. And so I literally slept on the ground with this wind just the whole night. It went the whole night. It was just, anyways.
Gee whiz.
I tossed and turned the whole night. The next morning, like it was interesting. Right as the sun, like just right when it came up, all of a sudden the wind stopped. And it was nothing. It was no breeze, no nothing. It actually it actually woke the minute the wind stopped. It was such a weird experience. The second the wind stopped, it woke me up because all of a sudden there was nothing. And it was this heat. And as soon as I opened my eyes and I felt this like no breeze, no nothing.
Yeah.
I went, oh crap, I am dead. Because it's one thing, when there's like nothing, it just, and so I got up and I packed up my sleeping. No, did I use my sleep? No, I didn't know. It was just on my pad, I believe. I forget. Anyways, I got on the road and I had basically, it looked like basically one more mountain to climb. I biked like 10, 15 minutes and I had to take a break. Now, luckily, because I was climbing this mountain, the road kind of curved in. So it was first thing in the morning. So there was a tiny bit of shade because the sun was still rising.
Yeah.
And so I would bike about 15 minutes and I'd find a cut into the mountainside where there'd be a little bit of shade. And I would sit there for like 20 minutes. And I realized that like pedaling was not an option. So I would actually push my bike another 300 or 400 meters to the next cut in the earth. And then I would take another 20-minute break. And then I'd push another 300 or 400 meters, which is not far. Like this is not far, you know what I mean? And then I take another 20-minute break. And I finally, and like I said, there was no breeze. It was just dead.
Yeah.
So there was no, anyways, I finally get to the top. And then of course, then there's this downhill, but basically it took me, like it took me 4 hours to go 13 kilometers, which, you should do in an hour. And it took me 4 hours. Yeah. And it's like, I'm like going like, what do I do? Like, and there's like no wind, there's no breeze, there's no, and I'm just like, what do I do? Like, do I dismantle my bike and just put my thumb out so I don't die? And so anyways, there's these washes, right? Because it's the desert and you have like a wash where they have the flash floods. Yeah. And so there was this bridge and I could see I could push my bike down and I could push my bike up because everywhere I go with my bike, I gotta make sure I can get out. If I'm going down, I still have to go up, you know what I mean, off the road. But so I see this bridge under the highway. And so I push my bike underneath and I laid on the concrete for 4 hours from 12:30. Like, I think I started around 8:30 in the morning. I biked like 13 kilometers. And I got under this bridge at like 12:30 and I left the bridge at 4:30 p.m. So I just lied on the concrete for 4 hours. Yeah. There's just nothing, there was just passed out. So at 4:30, I could see the sun was, and it's like, okay, I still like 40 kilometers or something. At that stage, I had about 40 kilometers to this next town. And it's like, okay, I've got to get there. And so I just pushed through, and I pushed through. It gets dark around 8-ish, 8:30. I still remember it like it was at 9 p.m. I was like 10 kilometers from this town. I was like literally just passed out on the side of the road, just with nothing left. I felt like I just wanted to, I was sick. But 10 kilometers, I just had to. And then so I get to this town, and it's not really a town. There's like a store and a hotel or whatever. But I get there at 10 p.m. I get there at 10 p.m. Everything's closed. There's a couple people in a pickup truck in this parking lot, and I just like, and it's like my voice is like half of what it's just. I just like, I mean, I had water. That's the thing, is like, you got to understand, like in 115 Fahrenheit, and if your water's been sitting in that all day, like, you know what temperature your water is at, and and what that tastes like. It is. I mean, I was about to make an announcement. You get water that's been that hot sitting. You have no idea how disgusting that is. And so I pull up to this pickup, and I was like, oh. And the guy had like half a bottle. And I just knew that whatever it was not going to be as hot as what I had. And so I took it. I went where the restaurant or whatever was all closed off by its chain link fence. I leaned my bike against it, and I just collapsed. And then some other pickup trucks showed up, and all of a sudden a cold Gatorade showed up, and a cold electrolyte drink showed up. It's amazing. Actually, I've had quite a few times where the locals, Mexicans, where they've actually pulled over, make sure I'm okay. If I've got something cold to drink. I actually had a truck driver toss me that first hill that I mentioned, I climbed when I left that town. A pickup, or no, an actual tractor trailer was coming the other side, and because he was climbing the hill, he was going super slow. He actually tossed me a cold Coke
cool.
from his cab. But anyway, so these people, so all of a sudden some cold drinks kind of appeared out of nowhere. And then this security guard he had actually worked in the U.S., Mexican, he'd worked in the U.S. for a bunch of years, so he knew a little bit of English, so he's like, so what's the deal? Where are you going? Where are you going to sleep kind of deal? And I'm just like looking at him like, dude, like, I don't care. I'm going to die right here, right now, and that'll be okay. And he was like, anyways, he goes, okay, follow me. And there was these trailers that they use. I guess they rent as cabins kind of deal, but they're these 30-year-old RV trailers. And they have a cement pad with this veranda or whatever. And he goes, you sleep under there if you want. And so I lean my bike against the trailer, and I grabbed one of my bags as a pillow, and I just collapsed. I'm on the concrete and no sleeping pad, and I just collapsed. Anyways, he went and got a piece of cardboard for me. So I slept on this piece of cardboard on the cement, and then and that's the thing. And then as soon as I collapsed, luckily, it wasn't as strong as the night before, but those desert winds from the north all of a sudden hit. And so now I'm getting blown on by this desert heat. And then there's a gas station about 1,000 feet away that the generator basically is running. It ran the entire night. So I had this generator about 1,000 feet running from me, just the noise of a generator just all night. And then I've got this heat, this wind that's blowing. And so I'm just lying, just collapsed on this concrete. And then it was just like the day before. The second the sun just popped up, the wind just stopped. Except now I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm in civilization, but I'm kind of in civilization. So as soon as that wind stopped, all of a sudden the flies came. And I'm still in my clothes. Now I wear a long sleeve as the day, but I have shorts. So I have shorts and I have my face exposed, and the flies show up. And I haven't barely slept all night because of this relentless desert heat wind.
Gosh.
Oh my gosh. I was just like, okay, that's it. I quit. I quit. What more do you want? Yeah. The restaurant whatever, opened the general store that's in charge of the hotel, or these trailers. They opened up at 8.
Yeah.
The security guard tried to tell me that like those things were expensive to rent. Like they were like 40-year-old dilapidated,
Yeah.
but they actually had AC or whatever. And so it's just like, I just need so I go into the store and they're like, no, there's none available. I'm like, none available. It's like, I slept under one beside one that was empty, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, when people do that, it's like, okay, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't fight it. It's like, if you don't want me here, you don't want to rent it to me, then okay, then but thing is it's just, there was no way I was biking down the road in what I had just experienced. And so literally from 8 a.m. ultimately would have been to 7:30 p.m. that evening, I actually sat in the shade watching the highway, watching for vehicles heading, vehicles are obviously going north-south, but I was watching for pickup trucks that were headed south that were empty, because I was trying to hitch a ride, because basically from where I was then, it was 60 kilometers to Highway 1. So had been on 5 all the way from Mexicali, and I had 60 more kilometers to Highway 1. And I was led to believe that as soon as I got to the Pacific side, Highway 1, which is where I am now, that it would be like a night and day for the temperatures. And so, okay, 60 kilometers, so I'm trying to, so anyway, so I literally from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. trying to find a ride with an empty pickup truck. And strangely enough, which actually worked out to be a very actually good thing for myself personally, I actually couldn't get a ride. I couldn't get a ride. And there was a situation where I almost did, and they said, oh, these people came up and they said, hey, there's a guy that's going to come, and he's going to come anytime, and if you just tell him you need a ride, he'll actually give you a ride. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm trying to do this through a translator and everything, because I don't understand Spanish.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. So I'm all ready. I'm all waiting, and then this guy never showed up, and it's like 7:30 p.m. It's like, well, I can't sit here another day.
Yeah.
And so I decided I'm just going to ride through the night. And it's kind of interesting, because your rule number one of bike touring, in Mexico or Central America or most third world countries, is you never, ever, ever bike in the dark. Well, first, I've had no issue whatsoever with anyone. Everyone has been super friendly, but these highways are fairly narrow and no shoulder generally. But you know what? Honestly, with the heat, I'd rather get hit by a drunk driver than die of heat stroke any day. Like, you know what I mean? It just,
yeah,
it's hard to explain. And it's like, yeah, no.
So makes sense.
Basically I left at 7:30 that night, and all of a sudden, and you know what? Unlike the last 2 nights where this furnace heat wind, the temperatures actually did drop considerably. It was interesting. I was probably an hour or 2 in, and I actually found my first scorpion on the highway. This big honking scorpion about this big.
Wow.
I caught him on my light. Yeah, it was really cool. But anyways, I ended up biking like I said, 60 kilometers. So I thought, well, if I could get 50 kilometers done, then, one, I'll be on the other side, and, like relief kind of deal.
Yeah. And
so I biked from 7:30 till 1:30 a.m. In the dark. Traffic was actually quite light. Just a few trucks here and there, a few vehicles here and there, but actually traffic was quite light. Even actually had like a water truck or something. The guy pulled over. He's like, yeah, like good, he's kind of deal, like, yeah. And so I basically biked till 1:30 a.m. And it was funny, even after seeing that scorpion, I was just so exhausted that I just literally collapsed on the ground, just slept on the dirt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's an aspect where, like, just dealing with this heat, there's such an aspect, a category of just simply, like, just not caring about anything. Now, when I say not caring about anything, it's not like I'm going to be rude to someone because I don't care. Yeah. It's just like, I don't take photos of a whole lot of like anything. I don't try. I don't care if biking at night is going to kill me, then so be it. I would rather a bullet between the eyes at 1 o'clock in the morning than, you know, of heat exhaustion, heat stroke during the day. Like I just, you know what I mean? And then at night, it's like, I don't care how many scorpions or rattlesnakes are around. I don't have the energy to set up my tent. I am just collapsing right here. It is really weird how it's just like, I just don't, all I care about is just the next cold glass of water. It's actually interesting because it's funny because obviously what I'm explaining, most people are going, I could never do that. I could never, ever do that. But yet I'm not this endurance athlete. Like I am not an endurance athlete. I'm 160 pounds soaking wet. You know what I mean? And so I'm doing something that, 80% of the world couldn't do, yet there are people that could do way more than I do. But I'm also just so mindful of how weak I am, because it's like, I think about people that have to get gone through wars. And I think about like the Mexicans that are actually crossing the US desert for freedom kind of deal, to get to move to live in a better place. And these people have to go days and days and days without, and I have to go an average, it's usually about it's been through where I've gone, it's been about an average like 65 kilometers between like towns or a restaurant or something where I can get something cold to drink. So about now on a bike, well, I mean, you imagine walking, but on a bike, 65 kilometers, that's almost a day. And so depending when I hit it, sometimes I was a day, without cold water kind of deal. And like, I'm prepared to sell my soul for the next glass of cold water, like literally, because it's been a day. And yet, people that are fleeing countries and going through wars, it could be months before they get a glass of cold water. And I'm willing to sell like practically my soul after a day. And so it's been a really, really weird experience from that perspective. I'm just gonna quickly look at my notes for a quick second. So when I got to that was the thing. So I, that night that I biked through the night till 1:30 in the morning. The next morning I woke up and actually, because I was on the other side, actually, I actually used my sleeping bag. I mean, not that it was.
We're losing you already.
Not that it was cold, but I mean, so that evening that I biked till 1:30 in the morning, it was nice, reasonable time. I mean, I was exhausted. I literally collapsed, but I actually did pull out my sleeping bag and used my sleeping bag that night, believe it or not. Anyways, when I woke up that next morning, I was on the other side. I was only a few kilometers from Highway 1, and just a complete night and day. Just a complete night and day. It was just the temperatures. It was awesome. And actually, because I gotta see if I can. I'm probably gonna butcher this word. I think it's called a boojum tree.
A boojum?
B-O-O-J-U. Yeah, boojum.
Boojum. Okay.
B-O-O-J-U. No, it starts with a B.
Oh, B.
B as in Bob. B-O-O. Yeah, B-O-O-J-U-M. I'm thinking that's boojum. It's called a boojum tree, and they're only found in this part of the entire world. And I had heard about them, I read about them, and so I woke up and there was a couple there. And so, anyways, with the weather better, and now the vegetation had changed. There was all these cacti, and so it was kind of like back to all of a sudden the normal kind of my loving the day of riding, and it was like just biking through basically the whole day was like biking through a cactus garden kind of deal. I was basically on Highway 1. I was heading south. The temperatures were beautiful, reasonable. Ever since I got on Highway 1, things have been so much better. So I've, Yeah, and that was like June 20th and 21, and now we're on the 23rd. So I've been in this town here for a few days. I guess I'm probably gonna have to spend another day. I've got still so much work to do, and just being exhausted. I'm just so tired. And but yeah, I know. Like that was the thing, is the next morning when I woke up, like the other day, it's like it was overcast and cloudy. I couldn't believe it. Like I'm going from 115 to 120, and now on this side, it's like overcast and cloudy. It seems like every morning on this side, the Pacific side, there's clouds in the morning. And it's like, I can handle this in the desert, no problem. Kind of deal. But yeah, anyway, so we've so I've like really rambled as far, but I mean, like I said, it's been a really crazy experience. Like you just like it's funny because I put on my homepage of my website, and I sort of mentioned it sporadically, but you know, when I started in the Canadian winter, bringing that back up, you know, I thought by biking during the Canadian winter, like every minute of every mile was going to suck, and it didn't, kind of deal. Like I really enjoyed biking through the Canadian winter. But biking through the desert in this 115 plus Fahrenheit temperatures, it's literally been an experience where literally like it's kind of like every minute of every mile has like sucked. It just, you know, I mean, I've never gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I want to quit. You know, I've been able to realize, okay, this is just temporary. Like I just have to get south of this, beyond this. You know, like Mexico City is 70 Fahrenheit. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like this is not forever kind of deal, but it's this, you know, kind of, I mean, even like in the US, like when I left, but like Grand Canyon and I got to Bullhead City and I hit the 110, kind of like from Bullhead City in Arizona all the way to this Highway 1 has just been, it's just been the hardest I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. So I'm about halfway. So to kind of bring it around, I'm about halfway down the Baja. I have approximately 770 kilometers left. So I've pedaled 632 kilometers in Mexico. I have 770-ish, give or take, you know, maybe up to 800, I don't know, kilometers left. When I leave here, the highway does actually head back to the east side of the Baja. So I am anticipating a few more tough days. I'm hoping like Mexico is like
oh, we lost you again.
I'm hoping. I'm sorry.
We lost you again.
Did it freeze it?
There you are. There you are.
I was saying like Mexicali is probably like the hottest place in Mexico, I think, give or take kind of deal. And so I'm hoping, because I'm like 600 kilometers south of there, that even though I have to go back to the east side of the Baja, that the temperatures are not in the, you know, the 115s kind of deal. You know, I can handle 100, no problem. But it's when you start getting north of the 100 is when it can get really, really challenging. So I think I have a couple tough days ahead of me, but I'm hoping not nearly as tough as what I had, because that just about killed me.
Yeah, we don't need you dead. That would ruin things.
Yeah, there'd be no more road show. No one would listen to us or see our faces.
Well, when you say you're riding at night, is there any lights whatsoever, like lighting up the road, or is it just you and the moon?
Oh, no. And actually, that's the thing is on Highway 1, I don't like Highway 5 actually was not too bad. Highway 5 actually had, for the most part, except for like one big section, most of it actually did have a shoulder. It was actually a surprise. I did not anticipate any shoulder. And so Highway 5 actually had a pretty decent shoulder. But Highway 1 is virtually like it's really weird. It's a hiss. There are a few small sections where there has actually been a shoulder. Generally, though, it's a soft shoulder. But then even actually most places, there's actually a drop. There's actually a drop like of like 8 inches. Like there's actually no place like if and that, you know, I should actually mention, because like people, like a lot of people like, oh, no, don't go to Mexico because it's so dangerous. And this, first of all, I've had no issue whatsoever. Every single person I've ever met here has been nothing but friendly. I mean, they stop to check I'm okay. They give me cold water. I've had no issue whatsoever with anyone down here. The next issue is like, especially Highway 1. If Highway 1 that I've been biking on was in Canada or the US, I actually probably would be dead. Okay, given Canadian, and I actually had very good experiences both in Canada, in America overall with drivers, like cars and trucks. Like, I'm actually not really complaining, but there was a few pretty crazy roads in North America that, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Anyways, if this highway that I'm on now was in Canada or America, I actually probably would be dead because of how narrow it is and that there's no shoulder. Yeah. But I have never acted, and I realize that this is probably not going to transition to the rest of Central America. But as far as the Baja is considered, the people have been so considerate as far as, you know, if there's oncoming traffic, of slowing down and waiting. And like, I mean, like, not to say that there hasn't been the occasional person that's tried to, like, speed, you know, around me or whatever, but I have never had so many vehicles actually slow right down and wait for oncoming to pass, or giving me a total, you know, that going way to the other lane. Like, the level of consideration by ratio has been a millionfold. And then even the trucks, like, I'm reading all these blog posts about how dangerous this highway is because of the trucks. Yeah. I have never met so many friendly trucks. Like, you know, the amount of people waving and honks. And like I said, I mean, I am a little bit biased as a truck driver, but I mean, I had a truck driver throw me a cold Coke. Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I had, and generally as a rule, you know, I've had nothing but good experiences with truck drivers across all of North America. And considering, like, as a cyclist, I'm their worst pain in the butt. It's one thing to be slowed down by another car, but when I'm trying to crest a hill on a bicycle and a truck comes up and it's a blind hill, they have to slow down to, like, a snail's crawl, not like to 40 kilometers an hour, but a snail's crawl. Okay. I am their worst pain in the butt. And I get nothing but friendly waves, friendly honks.
Probably that Canadian
from
flag.
These drivers. Yeah, no, but it's just like, I just want to say, like,
represent.
Like, this place, as far as the people, as far as the drivers, like, as Canadian, and like I said, I'm not really complaining about my experience in Canada and the US, because overall, I mean, I think maybe of the almost 20,000 kilometers I biked in Canada and the US, I got maybe like 4 angry honks. You know what I mean? Like, I can't actually go to an experience in Canada in my head. I cannot go to an experience in my head in Canada, the US, this, you know, oh, I had a, you know, that I remember this time, you know, that, and then, so that's pretty amazing. So I am not complaining by, you know, from my experience in Canada, the US, but coming here, like, it just like, I just cannot believe how courteous. And like I said, it's not that the occasional hasn't, like, sped through, and I'm not, and I mean, tomorrow I could have I could get hit by a car. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's just shocking. It's sort of a shock to the system how courteous the drivers have been on the Baja.
That's good.
And so, no, I mean, other than the heat, this has been nothing but a great experience kind of deal.
Well, good. So, fantastic. Well, please take care of yourself. It sounds like you got the wits about you to do what's best in the situations that you're facing. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching the Safari Arie Road Show. We'll be back with Arie in probably another week or so, or maybe earlier, but we try to do these things as often as we can. Arie, thanks so much, and please stay safe, brother.
And don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care, guys. Bye for now.
Bye. Whoops.